All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS live stream. Have Nick here. We were kind of just chatting about the interesting two-game slate. I'll let you give everyone kind of our thoughts here for this two-game slate.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been on all week. Like I was telling you, these short slates are tough. Like there's very little margin for error. Like you need the top raw point play in your lineup, whoever that ends up being. You need to hit on the value. So definitely better slates for tournaments than they are for low risk contests. Obviously, not playing many cash games on these two gamers, but yeah, we're going to talk about some gross names, gross players today that we normally wouldn't be. Obviously, the strategy definitely shifts. It's tough to get different on these slates, but I think there's a few ways we can go here. But two games with 3.5 hours between them. Not a ton of news we need to wait on. That's the good news, I guess. But yeah, we'll dig in as we always do, team by team.
Yeah, I just my kind of initial thoughts here as well, just to expand. I don't like that like everyone's basically active, so we're not really getting that much value. Like Wemby's going to be active. Franz Wagner is like the only one that's out, and both games are not necessarily that high scoring. Like the opening game, we'll talk about it, 225. Like that's very low, and then the OKC game could end up being a blowout, an 11.5 point spread. So there is a decent amount of like game theory that goes into both spots here. We got a decently high scoring game compared to the other one, but obviously OKC could blow out the Spurs, and so there's lots of little nuances there where we could find some edges there.
Yep, absolutely.
Mhm. So let's start here with, I guess, let's start with Orlando because yes, both the Wagner's are out. That should, in theory, create some value for us. We are seeing that Caro is gaining a lot of ownership, especially on FanDuel, where it's a little bit too cheap. But can we really trust him to have a good game here, especially against the Knicks, where this is a lower scoring game?
Yeah, I mean, it is lower scoring, but we also have to keep in mind there's only two games to choose from. And I'll say this I think the Knicks and the Magic run shorter rotations than both the Spurs and OKC. So I think it could kind of offset even if both of these games are competitive. So starting there. But yeah, I mean, Banchero's been on kind of a minutes cap. We saw him play 32 against Miami. We have him for 34 tonight. I think he's fully
Mhm.
good to go here. But again, not the best matchup. We've seen him kind of. I don't know, not as aggressive offensively since he's come back from injury. I think he's good on FanDuel, certainly at 7,800. You could play him at either forward position, 8,100 over on DK. But I think one of the easiest ways to get different is with this Orlando team, right? I mean, Bane has been lights out. Lower owned on both sites, 20% lower owned than Banchero is over on FanDuel. I think getting more Bane, maybe a little bit less Paulo is a decent way to go. I kind of like doing that. Anthony Black has been outstanding. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to get to him as chalk, but yeah, it doesn't feel too good knowing he's the highest owned play on the slate. But there's a clear pivot here if you go to Suggs. It hasn't really worked out lately for Suggs outscoring Bane. He's more expensive, so you need more out of him, and Bane's just been flat out outplaying him. But obviously, there's a leverage point there as well. So I don't want to overthink like not getting too much of this game because of the lower total. Again, I think these two teams run tighter rotations than what we're going to see from both San Antonio and OKC. But it's very easy to just come in a little bit under on Banchero. I like Black a lot. He's going to be in my main builds, but getting a bit more Suggs and coming off of Black, just doing those two things are the quickest ways I think to get a little bit different here.
I basically agree with you there. So I'll ask you kind of a follow up question to kind of that take because I like the idea of potentially gaining leverage on Suggs. Like per 36 wise, he does average like 45 points per 36 with Wagner off the court, which we only am projected for what is it, 32 minutes? Maybe ends up getting a little bit more than that. But with that being said, obviously Black is appealing and Bane is appealing. Would you cap the exposure to those three to max of like two of them per build? Because like there's no way those three are all going to go off.
I mean, I want to say yes, but I can't because there is a world where this game's super competitive and it ends up in overtime or something. So, like, if we game stack this game and the second one's a blowout, you could want all of the Orlando and New York. So, normally on a bigger slate, I would set that rule certainly, but on a two
Yeah.
gamer, I'm just going to kind of let it ride. And if I'm getting like four Orlando guys in a lineup, I think it is what it is.
I think it is kind of interesting between FanDuel as well because they're priced up on FanDuel, at least Suggs and Black are. although we have multiple position eligibility. So it is like easier almost to fit all three of them in on FanDuel, even though they're priced up a little bit more. So it's kind of weird there because we got small forward for Bane, then we could go shooting guard or point guard. So it's kind of weird between the two sites there, just in this spot. So I'm almost more inclined to do that there on FanDuel and like be overweight on Suggs and Black there than on DraftKings, which again seems weird because they're priced up.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And there's also another leverage point we're not talking about yet. Wendell Carter, super
Yeah.
popular. We actually had a decent sample size of him playing against the Knicks. I mean, he did do well on the 7th, but that was with Cat out. If you go through the game logs, and again, game log watching is certainly not an exact science. Don't really
Mhm.
want to recommend it, but just looking what he's done against them lately, I mean, a lot of floor games in there. And it's not like Goga's doing all that well either. So maybe avoiding the chalky Orlando front court, like both of the centers are very popular here.
Mhm.
Maybe just getting away from them is another way to get a little bit different. You could feel a bit better about playing Suggs with Black or Bane and Banchero if you're not playing the centers. Certainly they could go off here. They're definitely too cheap in a vacuum. Like
Mhm.
5,200 for Carter looks great on
Yeah.
DK, even 54 on FanDuel. But again, it's not like he's spiking huge upside against this team, at least not in his last few games there. And again, he had a decent game last time out, but that was without Cat. So I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable maybe coming in under on both centers for Orlando.
Okay.
That is one rule I would set, though. I definitely wouldn't want both Orlando
Yeah.
centers in a lineup. They very much cannibalize one another.
I agree there. It is interesting that Carter is the second best value for Orlando. I did not really catch that until sorting it by that. So interesting
Mhm.
there. But yeah, it does kind of look like Black is just, we should be going out of our way to play him, but it's, I don't know. It doesn't like make me feel excited that he's chalk either.
No, no.
So
I
we'll
mean,
jump
he's too
into the,
cheap on DK. Yeah, go
he
ahead.
is.
Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, he's too cheap on DK. You're right. We'll jump into New York though. No one's really out for New York. I mean, McBride's out, Shaman's out. Oh well, like who cares? Like they're healthy here, and so I do think we could get more of the Knicks with their projected minutes, like we saw previous seasons, where they're going to get heavy minutes, which is what we had them projected to get. Brunson's at 37, maybe 38. We got Bridges at about 37 minutes, Josh Hart 35, and then OG at 34, and then we have Towns at 33. Like we love that spot there. There should be a lot of predictability in at least them. I like into them because of their floor. Their DK value range are all pretty good. Oh, if index wise, it is Brunson, then Towns. Where are you at here with the Knicks? Because I kind of feel like they're appealing, but it's the Knicks against Orlando, so I don't necessarily love it.
Yeah, I mean, first thought is I definitely prefer Brunson to Towns. I agree with the model there. Just Towns with Mitchell Robinson in hasn't really spiked the crazy upside that we see him capable of when Robinson's out. They do have Robinson in tonight, so regardless of whether Robinson starts or not, he's not going to. In my
Mhm.
opinion, I do think that does cut into the ceiling for Cat. He's going to play a few of those minutes that Cat usually does, and also we have seen him actually share the floor at times. So keep that in mind. I do like Brunson. I think he's a little bit under-owned, even pushing 40%,
Yeah.
sub 9K. He's had good games against this Orlando team in the past. We did have someone in Discord, though. I have to bring this up, and I don't want to look too deeply into it. I tend to get carried away with narratives, but he allegedly left a Vegas nightclub around 4 in the morning last night. And I don't know if this is true. Yesterday, I brought up a fake news story about Clay breaking up with Megan Thee Stallion, which was pretty stupid. But yeah, maybe we dig into this a little bit. I don't
I,
know if Brunson had a good night's sleep or not.
I will say I hate that the NBA or a lot of professional sports that a story like that we have to even question whether or not it's valid. Like to me, if I was a professional player, which obviously never would be, that would not be something that even comes across my mind is like going to a club the night before a game. Like that's just insane to me. Like, what are you doing?
I don't even know, man. Yeah, but I think in general, when we're talking about the Knicks, I like all the wings here. I think Hart looks really good over on both sites, really. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
bit pricier than the other options, but just knowing the type of ceiling he has, we've seen him hit triple doubles before. Not that I'm expecting that here, but I think of that group, his ceiling is the best. Point per dollar, I mean, OG looks really solid. He had limited minutes first
Hmm.
few games back from injury. That cap is gone now, coming off a game where he played 35 against Toronto. You could have Bridges in there as well. I think those three are very easy to get to if you're going with a bit more of a balanced build here. And while I'm not excited to get to Jordan Clarkson, I do think he's at least playable because, Again, we have no McBride or Shamit. He's going to play those minutes. He has not been shooting the ball well at all, really not even taking many shots. But if
Mm.
Orlando does a good job kind of keying in on Brunson and Towns, maybe Clarkson gets a few more open looks. So don't mind mixing him in as a piece of value. Again, on these short slates, minutes rule. Like sometimes these guys, I don't know, we just have to play them to get to more payups. I feel a little bit better about Clarkson than some of the chalkier value we have in other spots.
I think that's fair. He can get hot shooting the basketball there as well. I did want to echo, like, I do think Brunson is too cheap. I think he's a solid play just overall. I think 50% is probably correct, but I, he's one of my favorite plays in the slate just in regards to a pretty solid floor. Do you want to call it Matt's comment? It's because they're in Las Vegas for the NBA Cup. Yeah, but it's like once you've been to Las Vegas, you've been to Las Vegas. I don't know, like it.
Yeah, I mean it's dangerous for some of these guys. They don't know
I
it
guess.
but yeah, I mean, someone caught him. I mean, I don't know. It probably doesn't matter, honestly.
No, it probably does.
And
I
again,
mean,
he's a little bit underpriced. It was 4 a.m. He's still got his 8 hours, and I think he'll
yeah,
be okay.
that is what's so crazy about the NBA. It's like, yeah, you can be up until 4, 3 a.m. and get a full night's sleep and be good to go.
Yeah.
Let's switch here into this late night game. So again, my
One
concern
more
here.
thing I want to touch on before we
Yeah,
move on here.
yeah.
I don't think it's crazy to mix in a little bit of Orlando Robinson. If you're looking at his last game against Orlando where he had 30 fantasy points, just don't. Cat was out for that one. But I do think even off the bench here, as a pivot off of a chalky Goga, off a chalky Carter Jr., if you're paying up at other positions, I think there's a world where he ends up optimal even if he doesn't get to 20 fantasy points. So I'm not crazy about Mitchell Robinson. I'm not sitting here saying definitely go play him, but there's a world where he gets to 20 minutes, in which case he would be a decent piece of value. So just wanted to shout him out before we moved on.
Yeah, I mean, he's always like a point per dollar type producer too, so I don't mind that. Yeah. We'll jump in here to the Spurs, and I want to start with Wemby. Okay, we have him at 1% and 3%. Is that right now, or is he going to go up?
Yeah, I mean, we're projecting him for what, 28 minutes? I mean, he could
Mhm.
still get there with limited minutes. We haven't gotten word, I don't think, on the official minutes limit. I will say this, it's a brutal matchup against OKC. Like, if there's any
Mhm.
defense that he's going to have trouble against, it's probably them. I'll also say there's been games this year where in limited minutes he still hit ridiculous upside. We've seen ceiling games from him against some pretty soft front courts. So there is a world where he still is someone you want to get to. But at his
Mhm.
price, if he's limited in a terrible matchup, I just have trouble wanting to pay up for him. Like I don't even think if he has 50 raw points, it's necessarily going to be something that you want. So I don't know. I think he's under owned at 1%, but at the same time, it's the worst matchup possible. So not getting full minutes out of him is significant. I don't really want to get there.
Yeah, I kind of see a weird like if you're doing 150 lineups, like probably don't want to get there. If you're someone that's like doing limited, like maybe 3 lineups or something like that, I actually really don't mind the idea of putting in one lineup with OKC or with Spurs plays like Fox, Wemby, and kind of just stacking in the sense that they actually keep this game close and maybe even end up winning it. I think that actually looks like a great opportunity to gain some leverage on the field here. But obviously, the only way they're going to keep it close is if Wemby and Fox are going off. And so at their current ownerships, I think that's just vastly too low given that logic. Although if you extrapolate it out for 150 lineups or something like that, then it makes more sense because you're chasing the most likely outcomes. I just think that ends up being a good chance to gain leverage on the field if you are someone that plays a limited amount of lineups, even though it's not the most likely outcome. I think that is the most likely way to gain leverage on the field tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if suddenly there's no limit on him, maybe we get this news pregame, but projecting him for 28, I think there's upside there. It's just not great. But honestly, though, if you are playing 150, you could put him in 5 to 10% your way
Yeah,
over
that's
the
true.
field if our projections hold true. So I think he will come in a little bit more popular than where we have him right now. But I am fine with it. I think in a competitive game, maybe even if he's limited, they want to give him a little bit of extra run, try to get these young guys that extra check that you would if you do in the NBA Cup.
Yeah.
But OKC has been a wagon, man. It's just tough to really expect too much out of him here.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, any other plays here for the Spurs that are popping up? I mean, the issue with them is obviously minutes. Like Barnes is projected for 31 minutes, Fox 32. Vasul's kind of interesting as price tag, I will say. Multiple position eligibility on FanDuel makes him a little bit more appealing. Castle, I don't necessarily love it as price tag. Be interested to see if you kind of differ. And then some of the plays that we might have considered if Wemby were inactive, we're really not like Keldon Johnson. We can't even really look at him on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, last slate I was on stream with Castle. I said I didn't like him because I thought he'd be limited. I was right. He was limited, but he was an amazing play. He went for 50 fantasy points. His first two games back from injury, 40% usage against the Pels, 36 against the Lakers. I think he's a good tournament play. I like the upside there, even in limited minutes. He's just shown he can get there. I'm not getting to Fox much at his price, if I'm being completely honest. I think Vassell's very useful where he's priced. You could mix in Barnes, obviously low floor, but upside for him. Harper
Yeah,
is someone I think is one of these hybrids. Like if the game's competitive, he's in the rotation. He's probably going to get his 24 minutes or so. If the game's a blowout, he's still probably going to get 24 to 28 minutes. So I like Harper a lot. I like Castle as a tournament dart. And then Vassell and Barnes, where they're priced, are very useful. One more guy I'll shout out is Keldon Johnson coming off the bench. Wide range of outcomes for him as well. I do think he has a higher ceiling than Barnes. Similar play.
that's true.
Probably wouldn't want both in a lineup, but you can mix in the mid range. Like I'm not trying to pay up here much for the Spurs, but I do think some of these mid range plays are appealing. And again, I think Castle has shown if he's going to be out there with 40% usage, you want to have a little bit of him in tournaments.
Yeah, I just with Keldon, just going back to that, like 18 minutes. Like he is priced a little
Feels
low,
low,
but
yeah.
it's tough. It's just tough for me to because I think that's right. I think he is going to get 18 minutes, and if he does that, even though he is like a pretty good point producer, I just it's tough for me to get to him there, and I like him a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we're giving some of his minutes to Wemby, when in
mhm.
reality, Champagne's going to lose a few of his
Yeah,
minutes, and some of those could go to Keldon. So I don't know. I think we have Champagne at 26. I think we have him maybe two or three too high, and Keldon two or three
mhm.
too low. But it's
I
not
can
like
see
some
that.
huge jump for either. Yeah.
Maybe Barnes even gets like a minute less or two. Small differences there.
Yeah, maybe. I think they like to run Barnes into the ground if that game's
Yeah.
competitive, but we'll see.
But yeah, it is 11.5 point spread. Is that like the issue that I have with the Spurs is like there's not even anyone we want to be getting on more if there's blowout run. Like it's just the bench players are going to get some run and we're not even looking at them. Like OKC here, if
Yeah.
you're switching to them, there actually is some logic behind maybe getting to some more plays here. But overall, I think we like being on OKC more because if it's a blowout, they're going to be part of the reason as to why it's a blowout. And this is the highest scoring game on the slate. And so, really, what do we do with OKC? Because no one's extreme chalk. SGA is, I believe, he's the best OF index play. And we're getting a bunch of very good value rating plays here for OKC.
Yeah, I like SGA. He's my favorite pay up tonight. I mean, he has been giving up some usage to Williams since Williams has come back, but I
Mhm.
think in this matchup with Wemby kind of clogging up the lane there, SGA could have a better game, and we've seen him get there in three quarters all the time. So I think this is a roulette set here. I think I would only want 2 out of 3 of Williams, Holmgren, SGA. And again, it's a 2 game slate. If this game's close, goes to OT, I'm going to be wrong on this, but it's very rare that all 3 of those guys are hitting a ceiling, but it's very, very common that 2 of them are. Personally, I would rank them SGA, Williams, Holmgren in the same order as the model here, but that's where the ownership kind of falls as well. It's pretty much directly correlated. So again,
Mhm.
I like these guys. I think it's a good matchup, but strategy does come into play. I think Dort at his price is good. It's just he's a low floor. He's very
Mhm.
appealing. Case and Wallace came out amazing last game in that cup game. I think he had like 28 points at half and then got hurt. He's not on the injury report at all. He's probably my favorite value piece here. I like him a little bit more than Dort. Seems like the field is getting to him as well. But
Mhm.
those two, I think, are the most useful, probably the safest. I think the riskiest is Caruso, just because we never know what his minutes look like. But I will say this, and this is funny. Like last time they played, I kind of called the blowout. I forget who it was against. Um, and I said
Every
Carlson
team.
for them. Yeah. What's this dude's name? Where is he? I said load up on Brendan Carlson and Kenrich
Oh.
Williams because in blowouts they tend to play the fourth quarter. They
Mhm.
did. I got that right, but Kenrich was so bad it tanked all my Carlson lineups. If you're building
Mhm.
for a blowout, get some Carlson because he's dirt cheap. He's mid price, massive upside. He's not even popping in the model. But again, you kind of have to make your lineups tell a story. If you're projecting both games to be competitive, stick to the model. I think it's on point. Get 2 or 3 of the pay ups for OKC. I think you could even get them in blowout builds. But my favorite play in a blowout for OKC is definitely Brandon Carlson. Um, so yeah, I just want to throw that out there. If you're playing Showdown tonight too, I think he's pretty interesting. I think Kenrich plays as many minutes as anyone,
Yeah.
but he just stinks most of the time. So yeah, Carlson is like my dart of the day. I like mixing him in, but again, I'm getting to a lot of SGA Williams, a little bit of Holmgren as well.
I don't mind those calls. I think that's pretty solid because either one of them like could get to 20 points in like even 12 minutes. It's not too crazy. And if it is going to be a blowout where we're getting maybe them getting more than what's the threshold for the model? 10, I think 10 minutes, right? If they're getting maybe 13 minutes to, be showing up in the model because of the blowout,
Yes, 10, I think.
that becomes a little bit appealing. Like if we get those two getting 13 minutes on a 2-game slate at almost the min price, that is an interesting way to get unique. That being said, aren't they both center only, or is Kenrick's power forward? So that
Kenrich is
makes it a
power
little bit
forward.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about Kenrich is he stinks, but he's actually in the rotation even if the game's competitive. He'll play like
Mm-hmm.
8 minutes in the first half. I think he comes in at the end of the first quarter, plays into the second most of the time. So he's the higher floor. But again, we're chasing ceiling here. We're playing high risk contests. I think Carlson, if you're building for a blowout, is pretty sneaky. But
Yeah.
again, I think they could also just let the guys play for most of the fourth. That game, it was so ridiculous. They blew out Phoenix by like 40 or something.
Mm-hmm.
SGA almost had 50 points in just 26 minutes, though.
Uh-huh.
Williams was the dud, and I was pretty heavy on him, but Holmgren got there as well. So, again, in a blowout, you're going to get 2 of 3 of these guys still hitting their ceiling. So, I'm pretty comfortable building with the payups and that dirt cheap value in Carlson, but very, very risky, guys. If you're playing only a lineup or two, probably just ignore all that talk I'm bringing up here on Brendan Carlson.
I mean, honestly, though, I think it's good because like if someone is playing 1 or 2 lineups, if they like their lineup and don't want to change it too much, and they have 3,000 left over, or around that range, I'm fine with that. I think that makes sense. Let's go ahead and jump into kind of the first build, but we got a question coming in, so let's answer this first. Thoughts on Dylan Harper and Anthony Black? Basically, not priced up enough for shooting guard and point guard. We did already touch on this, but I'll let you kind of hammer these both home again.
Yeah, I think Black is like good chalk on both sides. I really do like him a lot. I think Harper is solid. I think he's underowned, more of a tournament option, but you could definitely build a lineup with both of them. Harper is just super talented rookie. He relies on assists a bit more than scoring, which does help his floor. But for whatever reason, they do seem to cap him around 24 minutes for the most part. So yeah, I think Black is the more obvious play. I definitely want more of him. But Harper, even in the same lineup or as a pivot, is a pretty solid play. And if this game were to blow out, I still think he's getting the same minutes that he always does, that 22 to 24-ish. So I feel pretty good about Harper here.
This is interesting. We'll answer this one. I don't have an answer for it. Wants to do Caruso overs. So which player basically is not as good with Caruso doing well?
Yeah, so Caruso is 1 game removed from injury. He went out on the 28th of November, played that game against Phoenix, only played 12 minutes in the blowout. We have him for 16 minutes tonight. I'll say hot sauce. If the overs are really low, go ahead and play him. But Caruso's not a guy who relies on usage. He averages about 15%. So I don't think it's really cutting into anyone directly, if I'm being honest. Maybe like a Case and Wallace is playing a few less minutes if Caruso's out there, but it's not a direct correlation. I don't think there's anyone you'd be under on if you're going over on Caruso. And again, I don't think there's a world where he gets over 20 minutes here, no matter how this game plays out. So proceed with caution on that. I'm guessing books have the totals really, really low, though. So if you want to play them, go ahead. But again, he's 1 game removed from injury. They put this guy in bubble wrap all season. We saw it last year, too. He was healthy.
Yeah.
He wouldn't play 20 minutes, and then in the playoffs, they give him full run. So they know what they are. They're the best team in basketball. They have 1 loss. They're going to be the 1 seed. So they protect Caruso at all costs, and I think that's what we're going to see here again.
I think to answer the question, though, probably Dort, right, would be get a little bit less, and probably Wallace a little bit less.
Wallace, yeah, those would be the 2.
Yeah, I agree. And so let's jump into a little bit of a first look build here. I'm just going to refresh it just to see if anything has updated. But I think we're pretty comfortable playing Black in a lineup for sure. Anthony Black.
Oh yeah.
Shooting guard or point guard, has that made a difference to you this on the slate yet?
Not really.
Because I mean, we're probably going SGA, right?
Shooting guard only. I don't know. I like SGA, but you could put him at guard. I like Bane, who's shooting guard only. I don't think it matters. I think it's easy enough to move things around. I don't think one position is much deeper than the other tonight.
Yeah. We'll do SGA in the point guard with Black for now as the pay up. And then from there, obviously it does become a little bit more, I guess, difficult. So shooting guard wise, or sorry, small forward wise, is there anyone specifically that you like? I know, let's see the data. Jalen Williams is the best play, both value and OF index wise. After that, Silva is popping up for like DK. Vasol is okay, and Bridges. So it does kind of fall off a little bit there.
Yeah, I think Bridges is the safest play. I like going to Bridges for the most part.
Okay, we'll do that. And I do like getting to the Knicks. Like I could see getting to Brunson over SGA even, but
Yeah,
that's
OG.
because I do think this mid tier builds are going to be more difficult today. Is kind of why though.
Yeah, and I'll say this: like, if you're not playing SGA, you probably do want one of Williams or Chet.
Probably both,
I think
right?
one of
As you
them
were
is going to have
saying.
a ceiling game. Yeah, if this plays out where SGA is not optimal, it's very likely either Williams or Chet had a really, really good game. So just keep that in mind. But with SGA in, if we're not getting to Brunson, I mean, I don't know. I think OG is underpriced. He's going to be chalk. I think he's really easy to get to though.
Mhm.
For okay,
Yeah, let's look at some of the chalk right now. So it is Black, Brunson, Silva, OG. Silva's chalk. That's kind of interesting. OG.
that is,
And say yeah, we'll go OG.
yeah,
And I think the reason why Silva's chalk is because of what we just went through there at the small forward position. Kind of interesting. Center
okay.
wise, I honestly like this is kind of the logical spot to get to one of the OKC bigs, and it's not like you necessarily want to do this in most of your builds, but it's a unique slate. We could get to one of them.
Yeah, I'd say high risk if we're building for the blowout. Maybe you could throw Carlson in. I don't know if we want to do that for our dummy build here.
Mhm.
I mean, Hartenstein, as good as he's been, he's dealing with Wemby. The minutes haven't
Mhm.
been great. I don't know. It's
Would
really
you
tough.
would you rather get to Carter or Mitchell Robinson, or
I
try to?
do think Carter in like a low risk contest or smaller field would be the play. Um, but maybe for this we go Mitchell Robinson. Just see how it works out.
Okay, we'll go
If
with
you can see
that.
20 fantasy points, I think you're going to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll do that. And then guard wise here, so we do have 5.9 left over, so a little bit, I guess, easier. We could get to Suggs. I don't know if I necessarily want to pair him up with Black though. We got Harper, Castle, Fox. We could really probably get to anyone here and still make it work. It's just our lineup after that would be tough. So do you want to get to Brunson? Do you want to get to Williams as a pay up for the forward spot, or do you want to go with one of the mid tier guards like Bain, Castle, Suggs?
Let me say this. I think everyone was expecting Dort to start last game. They went with Case and Wallace. If Wallace starts again, I would get him in a lot of lineups. But if not, I think we could just go to Harper. Or if you want to try to fit Brunson and see what happens, I'm down.
I want to try that and just see, because we have 4.5 left over then, and it's not terrible.
Yeah, so whoever starts out of Dort and Wallace would be one.
Okay. So, well, we're expecting Dort, right?
That's what I'm seeing projected, but that was also projected against Phoenix, and they went with
Yeah.
Wallace. So I don't know. Hey, let's go Dort. I think it's an easier build.
We'll just who's ever projected higher. We'll just do that. So we'll do Dort is at 5.8,
14 State.
and then 4 points. So we'll go Dort. And then
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
that
go Dort.
changes.
And again, I do think, yeah, I think we're projecting Dort to start. So
So we have 5.1 left over for the forward spot. Shoulder shrug and get to Harrison Barnes.
yeah, he's. I like your term shoulder shrug play. Barnes is the king of the shoulder shrugs. I think.
Yes, he literally is. All right, give me that 25 points. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
I do want to try this once with SGA off and just kind of see what it looks like with Chet and Jalen Williams, because I do think just talking it over, I think that makes this a better build overall. So we'll try
yeah.
that just real quick.
And I think in that world, if they're going off, maybe we do go with Carlson at center.
Yeah, I don't mind that. We can try that.
I mean, it's kind of gross. I know.
Well, it is going to be. I mean, that's the slate though. It's a 2-game slate. We
Yeah,
can't
and
control that.
again, if you're looking for floor, if you're looking for the obvious play at center, it is Wendell Carter Jr. I just think as chalk, I'm trying to get a little different there. But again, you can't just play the best plays as they project on a 2-game slate. You got to get a little weird.
And I will say, just looking at the lineup, so we have Brunson, Black, Bridges. Maybe we switch off of the New York plays here a little bit more. Maybe we get to Hart or
Harper.
Towns, but I'm fine with it because we're left with Harper. Yeah, and I think this lineup makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, because Harper could get a little blowout run too. I think that looks
Uh-huh.
really good.
It's interesting. But honestly, I think we covered this enough. But like that's the way this slate should be attacked. Now, maybe both games are close and the game totals end up being very close as well. And all this game theory stuff doesn't matter. But I think that's the approach to tonight. Before we get out of here, I do want to get your thoughts on Silva because we didn't really mention him, and I didn't really think he'd be chalk. Projected for 26 minutes, about 50% on both sites, mostly due to his price, but he does pop up decently well value wise. Is that someone we were overlooking, or is that just more of he's a small forward? It's easier to make lineups work with a cheap small forward tonight.
I think that's part of it. I also think with Franz out, he could see a little bit of extra run, but with Black playing as well as he has, he's no longer in the starting lineup. And I do think they're going to close with Black over De Silva for the most part. So he's okay. I just think he's overowned. He's kind of reliant on his three falling. He did come out really hot last game. He finished with 22 points. I think he started with like 16 in his first stint. He did nothing the rest of the game. So I'm okay with him. I just think if we're looking at chalk that we could poke holes in, he's probably one of the easiest pieces to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And we did get the confirmed starting lineup for Orlando, which no surprise, Suggs, Black, Bane, Carroll, and Carter. So no surprises there. I don't think we're really going to get surprises, maybe besides, again, that OKC spot with Dort and
Yeah,
Wallace.
Wallace or Dort is the question. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Does Dort coming off the bench like matter? Like I do think it helps Wallace if he starts. Does Dort coming off the bench matter though to you?
No, because he's not a guy who's playing over 30 minutes right now, really, anyway. I think you could
Yeah.
still use Dort. I mean, he has a wide range of outcomes. I would much prefer Wallace to start and be getting to a lot of Wallace. But I'd rate Dort over Caruso even off the bench. I'll say that much.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, we dove into the slate as much as possible for a 2-game slate. Try to give you enough information for showdown purposes as well. Not a terrible way to attack the slate as well for a 2-game slate. We're not really waiting on too much news. So in a weird way, it is somewhat of a straightforward slate. Going to come down to your lineup process for this week. But any closing thoughts for you, Nick?
No, I will throw one more name out there.
Yeah.
If you are building for the blowout, you got Carlson. Osmani Dang is another guy who's probably going to play the whole fourth quarter. Again, the game should stay close. Like the Spurs with Wemby are a good team, but in a world where it doesn't, OKC's been blowing a lot of teams out of the water. I think Jang is someone I'd have a little bit of interest in. But again, keep an eye on that lineup. I think if you're only playing a lineup or two, don't play these really gross plays. But on a 2-game slate, it is worth kind of talking through this. But yeah, I'll be in the Discord coming up here in like 10 minutes. So we can talk about some of these more gross bench guys in a little bit.
Yeah. So, guys, jump in the Discord here in about, 5-10 minutes here. And then we'll catch you guys on tomorrow's live stream for both the NBA and NFL. Thank you guys for being here.